Okay, so it is Captain's Log, stardate 3rd of February, Chinese New Year, so Gung Ho Fat Choi or whatever it's called, to everybody out there. And I just wanted to take an image of this driving along. I'm not doing much by way of wiping the snow off the thingy because it's going up anyway. It's not sort of hitting the windscreen because of the dynamics of the way that I could actually turn those things off because they'll probably just annoy you. But it's interesting to see. Let me focus up a little bit on the size of these snowflakes. They started very recently. It's obviously it's 0 degrees centigrade, as you can see. This is the new camera, the Vado, it being the 3rd of February 2011, and my son broke my old one before Christmas, so it's now my new one. Third one, because that's my second HD one. I had an old one before that I did about 200 odd films on, very odd. And I'm actually driving just south of Namiswolf through villages which you would say were on the cusp of being Lower Silesia. I'm not sure they are actually yet Lower Silesia. I think it's not quite there yet. I think it's still central Poland, but on the cusp of being Lower Silesia. And I just thought, well, the snowfall, which has just started, is actually it's actually quite picturesque because these are lovely big flakes. It's quite hazardous because the road will get white quite quickly. It's already halfway white now, where the cars have been driving. You can see it's the tracks of where they've driven, keeping it just a tad bit warmer. But you can see that at this rate it won't be long before the roads are totally white, and then they will be difficult to negotiate until they are cleaned, and I have to take some fairly backstreet kind of riding on this particular. I'm on a journey which, according to this, well actually I didn't put the whole journey, I just put part of it in, but according to this would normally, according to Google, when I checked out on Google, it would take 2 hours and 10 minutes down to Raciborz from Namiswolf. I'm going via Brzeg. Last year when I did this and I was going on about scientific names on exactly the same journey as in terms of from which place to which place, but on that journey I was doing went through Apollo, and it was later in the year, it was a month later in the year, and I set off earlier in the day, so it was brighter, it wasn't as cold, it was plus, it was sunshine. It was the time when I went into Krapkowice as well the same day, so it's okay for Krapkowice. I think is one of the 2 films I took on that day, and the other one would have been one of the ones I uploaded shortly prior to that, which you can always, if you want to look at it, you can look at it. But this is exactly the same journey as far as purpose is concerned. 1 year later. I can't go into details obviously as to what I do because it's accountancy, therefore it's private, but it's a very different route. It's a different sort of time. It's a year, this year I'm doing a month earlier, like I say, completely different weather, and a different route through Brzeg, whereas I went through Opole before. Nice things there. So I decided to film a little bit because I didn't film at all up till now on this particular expedition, because so far everything I did was either in the middle of the night or it was the same as far as, you know, travel was concerned. Whereas now I've got daytime and a different route to the route you saw last year, and also the fact that it's this strange, you know, snowfall with huge flakes suddenly coming from nowhere. even though I don't know how long it will last. Nothing strange about it, of course. I mean, it's, if you have a temperature of around about 0 degrees and you have a sky that's full of water, it's going to come down probably as snow, and it's probably going to, when it hits the ground, it's probably going to start to accumulate. As you can see, it's accumulating already quite nicely. By the time I get finished even just recording this, there should be a difference in the way that the road looks from when it was at the beginning of recording it. That's how quickly the roads whiten up here and become difficult to negotiate. And certainly, if you have this situation, if you have this kind of situation and you're not used to it, the one thing you need is, I mean, you might say, well, what are you doing? You're doing a one-handed, there's no hand on your other steering wheel. Why are you doing a one-handed kind of arrangement here? If it's a treacherous road, why do that? Well, obviously I can always, if the worst comes to the worst, I can chuck this on the seat or just drop it and grab the steering wheel. Okay, if I have to, that's what I'll do. But I shouldn't have to do that because I've got winter tyres, and those winter tyres mean that they hold the road a lot better. Now, I didn't used to believe much in that. And for half the time that I've worked in Eastern Europe, I tried to get by on just having the same tyres all year round. The result was that when it got down to these kind of conditions, instead of driving at 70 kilometers an hour like I'm driving now, I probably would just feel that I couldn't handle going any faster than about 50 kilometers an hour. And so it would drop the speed right down, which means I'm out in it for longer. And it's not just you, the driver, that determines whether you're going to have an accident. It's also everybody else on the road, and whether they've got cars which are good enough, and whether they've got skills which are good enough, and whether they're in control of situations. It's not just you that determines whether there's going to be an accident. If it's between you and a tree, then yes, it's probably your fault. But if it's between you and another driver, it could just as easily, if not more likely, be the other driver's fault. Especially if you're a viewer of this channel, which means you're probably a sensible person. Don't go in for kind of lunatic things. Well, actually, come to think of it, maybe it would be more your fault than the other driver's fault, but never mind. In any event, the thing is, what was I trying to say? Yeah, it's a definite yes to have winter tyres, and I'll tell you how I came to that conclusion. My daughter was born on the 7th, or one of my daughters was born, my daughter Tatiana, whom you will know if you've spent any time watching the channel. That's my youngest daughter. Was born on the 7th of February 2002 in Moscow. And I had a Jeep then, and it was my Jeep on British plates and on summer tyres all through the Russian winter. Most of the time I was okay. I slid about an awful lot too much. There would be quite regular times when I would slip about a bit, and but it was 4x4, so I thought that was enough to be okay without the winter tyres. My colleagues said you should really get some winter tyres as well, it makes a difference, but I was always knowing better, like I had been going around in Poland knowing better for a long time. And after all, they cost money, do winter tyres, yeah? So it's going to be an investment. Let me tell you, it's an extremely good investment. What finally made me do it was the day or the night that Tatiana was born. I didn't get out of that maternity hospital until 6 o'clock in the morning to go home. I wasn't going to go into work the next day. And what happened was, that's an interesting thing. I don't know quite what it was. Some kind of buzzard. So what happened was, I came out of the hospital and slid straight into, although I wasn't going fast, the brakes just wouldn't work at all. So I slid straight into an ambulance coming along and had an accident, which I had to pay money for, obviously, and accept punishments as well by the Russian police. Thankfully nobody was hurt, but nevertheless you've got to go along and admit that, you know, to some form of guilt, and then they behave in a reasonably civilized way to you and just give you a monetary fine, and you know, as long as you're there standing up and coughing, then the Russian police are as civilized as anybody else. So I didn't have a hard time afterwards with it. It was all very civilized. I wouldn't want you all to get the wrong idea, and there's more stories to tell about that, about actually what happened in that evening, which are quite interesting as well, which I could say one other time, involving what happened, because when you have an accident, you have to stay right there where you are until the police come and take their notes and everything, and get your details and tell you where you've got to go and what you've got to do next. So I had to stay where I was, and the ambulance had to stay where it was. And unfortunately, where it was blocking a tram line, and trams soon started coming along and wanting to get past, and they started to basically go back to the horizon, with people all being late for work, and people getting immensely annoyed and coming up and knocking on my windows. And I rang to the insurance company and said, can't I move it, because everybody's getting so annoyed, I'm blocking the tram line. They said, no, you still can't move it, that's the Russian law. Whatever they say to you to try and get to work, just ignore it. Now we will send somebody along to explain the situation to them. And when they said that they were sending somebody along to explain the situation to them, I thought that they would send some kind of lawyer who would be standing there quoting from a book of the law and hopefully turning people away by explaining to them what Russian law said on the matter. Whereas what actually happened was, a big black Mercedes drove up about 10 minutes later. In the meantime, I'd had to sort of like put up with more and more people knocking on my window and shouting at me and getting annoyed with me. And these two folk got out, really heavies, real flatheads, in leather jackets with batons, and I thought, oh dear, I really have annoyed somebody, and by not being here, I'm now going to be, my last moment's probably come. I'm about to endure physical pain as well as everything else. So, and this all on my lovely little new daughter's birthday. Whereas what happened was, you know, they said, you know, they gestured to me to put my window down, and I thought, you know, I'll only put it down a little bit. And they said, is it, you know, David James, which happens to be my name? So I said, yes, that's me. I said, okay, well, we've come from the insurance company, which I won't say was Guta, okay, it's Guta Insurance Company, and we're here to help you. I thought, well, thank goodness for that. So they were chasing away all the folk that were otherwise trying to have a go at me, and nobody was, of course, going to have a crack at these guys. So I was now perfectly safe, and they also negotiated with the police for me, and so everything was nice and done perfectly. I don't know how civilized it might have been actually if they hadn't been there. But what I actually found out later is that I'd had a special policy bought by the company I was working for, a sort of VIP insurance policy, which has this sort of extra, you know, bend over backwards to get you out of any sticky situations clause in it. And the dial this number was really a kind of hotline to pretty much any kind of service to get you out of any kind of situation number. So, and you don't get that kind of thing in England, believe you me. So that was a very, very good service, I have to say, and certainly we got our money back from that. And I wouldn't recommend you, if you want to go to Russia, drive a car around in Moscow or what have you as an expat, I wouldn't recommend you to do anything like that without really one of those good insurance policies. And what it's called is сопровождением. It's called with accompaniment. It's called an insurance policy with accompaniment. And then it kind of all came back to me that earlier on, when my colleagues were saying we need to get you insured, we'd better get you in a policy with accompaniment. And I said, well, what does that mean? I said, well, if you have an accident, it means that somebody will accompany you. I thought to myself, well, is it really necessary? And they said, well, no, you definitely want to have it, yeah, so we'll get it for you. And I kind of thought, well, all right then, since they want to be kind to me and get me this thing and they think I should have it, I won't say no, because if anything does happen and I haven't got it, then they'll say, well, you should have let us do it for you. So I had got this insurance policy with accompaniment, and believe you me, it was quite a good accompaniment. If you imagine somebody accompanying you on the bass and on the treble both at once, then That's basically what it was. So if you're looking for just to make sure that you stay out of any kind of basenesses and you keep your nose out of trouble, then you want to have an insurance policy in Moscow with accompaniment. Hey, I just thought that one up. Wasn't that interesting? So there we go. We're in the forest now. Trees on both sides of the road. Trees on that side. Trees on that side. Nothing unusual about that. Poland, after all. 23% forested country, so there we go. There's an example of what that looks like when it comes to having snowfall on it. And of course, as you can see, stuff coming from the other direction. So going back to the theme which started this rather long ramble, it all turned out okay in the end, although I didn't have a car for about 4 weeks, and my friend Alexei was very helpful and tended to insist on ferrying me around at his expense, effectively, all over the place, and wouldn't hear any of my protests at all. And he's a very good man. He's now in charge of several TV stations, and he basically said, you've definitely got to put winter tyres on when you get your car back. So that was the first thing I did. In fact, he actually went with me to make sure I did it. So I kind of, all the time, sort of wondering, or being a little bit kind of sceptical, even though I trusted his judgment more than most people that I've met, and that's why I even did it. I thought to myself, is this really necessary? But after I'd actually done it, after I'd actually bought winter tyres, I never would want to be without winter tyres in winter again. I tell you, they make an awful difference, an awful lot of difference. So if you don't know what winter tyres are, it's not chains or spikes like I had in Finland. If you look at my Finland video, then you can see I actually had a car out for Finland with all spikes on the tyres as well. His Royal Spikiness, I called it. It was a nice Volvo with all the trimmings and ABSs and you name it, and on top it had spiky tyres. In Finland, spiky tyres are legal, but they're not legal in most of the European Union other than Finland. So you can't get them, but you can get winter tyres which are made out of a softer rubber with a deeper tread, which spreads out, creates a certain bigger friction. They're warmer, and they grab the snow, they grab the road, and they give you more traction. So it's about, they must be doing something, because your petrol use goes down by 10% when you've got them on. You can't also get as much handling out of the car as you would. It's not as fleet of foot as it is on the summer tyre. Yeah, it's more kind of tractory. But so they must be doing something. They stick you to the road a little bit, So they really work. So you don't want to not have them. And one of the reasons why I'm saying this is that I know a lot of you folk listening to me here are not from Poland. A lot of you are from the UK and other places, maybe parts of America that don't get a great deal of snow, and maybe you are not 100% sold on winter tyres. Well, you should be. That's the first thing. And then the second thing I wanted to say is that over on my blog, which is hooliganov.tv, I made and I'll put the link in the description, but I've got an article which basically, I suppose it could become a part of a book in the end. I've started putting books on Hooliganov TV, books which are a work in progress, over on Hooliganov TV under a certain section. There's a page which leads into these books, and then underneath there's sub-pages, and each book is on a sub-page in that page, if you know what I mean. So, but they're all passworded. Okay, and I'll start giving passwords out when it gets a little bit further down the line to those of you who express a kind of interest in collaborating on one or another of these projects. Some of them require collaboration in order to be better than I would do them on my own. Some of them probably wouldn't even get to the end unless I get some collaboration at all. So because there's too much to do to finish them. And I've got about 12 projects. That not all of them are even there at the moment. I think I put about 3 up so far. To 3 of them are up so far to look at. But you won't be able to look at them until they're ready for me to start handing out passwords. And those passwords are going to go out first to people that I hope will want to collaborate with me in some way over the book. And then when they get to a point where, you know, it's at least partially ready, so that parts of them are already going to be useful and that people can see where it's going, it may not be a finished work, then they will become public. And once they're completely finished, then some of them might actually become paper versions. I would like to become a writer. That's one of my ambitions, and so that's the whole idea of doing this, is actually to get me on the way there to become a real writer. I want to be a real writer. And you must see the blue fairies in the publishing company. So basically, please go along anyway to hulaganov.tv. I'm hoping to get people that watch my videos also reading my stuff. For every video there, or for every post there that's got a video in it, there's going to be at least one post that's got just the writing in it. And even the ones which refer to the videos, they'll have different writing on the bottom to the blurb which I originally put in it. And if you can find a video here that you like, I mean, I've done about 100 of the old ones, and I'm doing the new ones concurrently. So everything that's come out in 2011, I'm uploading within. I'm aiming to do it within 1 week of uploading it here. In fact, usually it's been within a day so far. Also in 2011, I'm doing one post at least every day, even if it's just clearing off some historic thing that I wanted to have on there, rather than doing something completely fresh and juicy every single day. But then there's quite a lot of stuff as well that sort of flows from the mind, which previously I might have put into video form, and I probably still will from time to time. Today I'm doing mainly a video, yeah. So, but there's no point in doing video unless there's some kind of audio going on as well that gives people something to look at. At the moment we're looking at a snowy road in Poland and listening to me jabber on about a load of nonsense. So, but if there wasn't anything to look at, then I might as well write it and have you know, give you something to read as well, or just do a voice one. You can actually do voice uploads to a blog, a WordPress blog. You can voice upload. You can do your voice upload directly over the phone. I've done it once. One of those posts, and there's just a direct voice upload, and I don't do it much because you have to call America to do it, which obviously is going to cost money, yeah? Unless you do it on Skype, which I can do, but it would cost some money, and therefore I don't necessarily. It sounds like a good way of using up Skype credit. That leads me on, without completely rounding off that last topic, to a slightly different topic. Did you know that Skype, and if anybody wants to be my matey on Skype, by the way, my name is david.j.james on Skype, and by all means, if you want to, I usually chat on Sunday evenings, and if you want to join in a chat room with me on Skype on Sunday evenings, then just sort of make yourself known to me on a Sunday evening. And I've usually got 1 or 2 concurrent things going on. I've got a chat room open, or 2 chat rooms open, and I've got a couple of side chats going on with various people. So basically, when I say chat, what I mean is it's typed. I can't do that and talk at the same time together with people, but I've got chatting going on, both in terms of typing real time with people, and in bigger chat rooms where there's a whole bunch of people seeing it at the same time, and that's in Skype. So the key to getting on any of those, whether you want to have a small private chat with me, and I'm not going to have a big private chat with people, if you want to have a small private chat with me, or join one of the chat rooms that I might be in, and join in the fun on a larger scale, then just link up to me and on that Skype name, and say that you're from from YouTube, that you saw this film on YouTube, and off we go. Sunday nights. That's not every Sunday, most Sundays. And it kicks off at about, well, I usually put it on from about 8 o'clock Central European time, which is about 7 o'clock UK time in the evening. Then it's probably afternoon if for most American viewers, if you want to be part of it. So so there we are. Brzeg is now only 2 kilometers away, so we get to see that driving through it. Brzeg, I don't know if we actually see much of it or not. I'm going to now take a break while I retune my... Oh, is this going over the Odra River? May well be. Bear with me. Nareszcie Brzeg, it says. It looks like a bit of a flood... Looked like a bit of a floodplain of a river, but I can't see the rest of it. Maybe there's a bit more of it coming up there. Well, if I just asked it to take me to Brzeg first, and I'm going to go to Raciborz afterwards, so I'm going to start to tell it to take me to Raciborz in a minute. But in the meantime, that'll probably take me, asking it to take me to Brzeg will probably take me pretty close to centre. So I'll allow it to do that, and then afterwards, and at least we might see something worth seeing. That's an interesting symbol. And then we're going over a river here, a little bit of a river. Is that the Odra River? Could be. Could easily be. I think the Odra River should be larger than just simply that, because if I remember it in Opola there's quite a bit of it. So that could be not necessarily... Okay, thank you for that. I will try and do that. I'm not very good at understanding your language though, but nevertheless I'm trying to get there. Right, here we go. This is the Odra River. It says Odra. Interesting construction. I couldn't have asked for more. Really, there's a nice fat river for Chinese New Year, and a nice bridge. Not as long as the Chinese ones. Look at the films by David Gourney. He loves to film long bridges, and he has a very good quality machine. So if you look, Gourney, Goorney, look him up. Look up his stuff. He's gone to China just to marvel at the civil... 300, eh? Right, so there you go, there's a bit of Brzeg. I may not bother, I'm not sure whether I'm going to do that or not, but anyway, Brzeg is here. What does it suggest? It says Wrocław's that way or Wawr's that way. Okay. You see, it doesn't matter if I don't understand every word this guy is saying, because it's also got this thing on it which tells me as well in Esperanto what I need to know. So the fact that the guy is jabbering on away at me in Greek, which I'm only just starting to learn, doesn't really matter that I don't understand everything. I'm just picking up a bit as I go along by switching. I just switched this to Greek just at the start of the journey, just to get my ear in, just to get used to the words here. After all, one of the things I'm going to have over in Cyprus is I'll probably have to take a taxi a bit from Larnaca across, so hang on. I don't know who was trying to call me then a second ago. I'll probably have to stop anyway in a second, because I can see they're trying to call me. I've now got both my hands full, so it's a little bit much. I shall have to stop. So actually this is a bit of a pity to stop there. I actually turned it back on again just about 2 seconds after turning it off, just because it's quite nice stuff. I've still got the phone in the other hand, but I'll put it back in my...
Ετοιμαστείτε να φτάσετε στον προορισμό σας σε 290 μέτρα.
Naftase. I know naftase. Naftase means to enter. Ftano. Naftaso. Yeah? I don't know even what the tense is called. That you use after na and tha. But I know that it's different to the usual one. Ftano means I arrive.
Φτάσετε στον προορισμό σας σε 100 μέτρα.
And ftaso is means or ftaso is the form after na and tha. But he seemed to have been giving me an imperative as well using that root. So I presume that the root also derives the imperative. But if I have no idea if that's the case at all. But yes, I'm just making little working assumptions like a linguist would from what I'm hearing of the language, and then testing them later to see whether I'm right. I'm not getting dogmatic about whether it's the case at the moment. But imagine if you were if you were not learning a language that was charted and had XYZ number of manuals written in it, but you came across a language which nobody had ever, you know, other than people of that tribe, had ever really managed before. How would you go about dismantling it? Or if aliens came and they had their own language, assuming you could even make out one of their letters from the other, which is a big assumption, since it's not always possible for people to do that unaided even with human languages. How would you go about it? How would you go about actually deciphering and making a grammar of an alien language? Or what about the people that work with elephants to try and work out the elephant language? How would you actually go about it? It's so different to human language and involves different things to it's more than just the organs of speech being involved in it, in the case of some of these animal languages, elephant languages. So all sorts of different types of sounds are involved in it. It's possible that they have a more difficult language structure than some human languages. How would you go about? How would you go about deciphering it? It's a very practical question in linguistics. How to actually turn I think I'm going right if I go this way, aren't I? I think so. Gives me a lane of my own, which is... Oh, a lane of my own! That's what I always wanted! It doesn't last for very long, though. I better let this guy go first. What says that? It says going to Wrocław. I hope it also allows me to go my way. I don't like the look of this at all, actually. I might turn back. Okay, in fact, what I did was I now plugged in Raciborz into this little machine, and I didn't turn it. I didn't turn the car around and go back again, because it gave me suggestion to carry on going forward and join the A4, which is a motorway. As far as I'm aware, still a toll-free one, although no doubt it will become tolled in the future, and what the toll will be I don't know, but at the moment we have untold bliss, as it were. Nice group of sparrows there, all feeding on a corpse or something. Look at the size of the mistletoes there. They could be harvested and taken to market in countries that don't have so much mistletoe. Somebody can make a massive profit on that. Mistletoe, by the way, is poisonous, so kids, if you're listening to my films, don't go eating it. In fact, probably it's not a good idea to kiss too many people under it either. You could probably get germs that way. Anyway, I came to the end of most of my themes that I wanted to talk about. So, talked about the books. I just thought that WordPress was a good way of actually, because, you know, I discovered that WordPress is a good way of actually getting these books all together. I'm going to do about 12 on there concurrently at different phases of completion. And because those are the number of book projects I've got in my head. So they're going to start appearing on there, and then gradually they're going to start. You can have a look and see what books they are, but gradually I'm going to start to be in a position, and people are going to know this who are subscribed to Hooliganov TV quicker than those who are not. And then I'm going to start coming to a situation where I say, okay, I've got a skeleton here. Here I've got a kind of first parts of the muscles and organs. You can basically see the design. Basically see the first idea, the first outline, and I'm looking for people who want to help with them. So if you're interested in co-authoring something or bringing something to a book without necessarily co-authoring, or just proofing it, or just giving some input, then you need to be on hooliganov.tv, subscribe to it. You need to have probably a WordPress account of your own. In fact, if you wanted to be involved in it, you'd have to have, because otherwise I can't even put you on the thing for it. But basically it's a good place to be. It's a good place if you want to write WordPress. So I recommend it. And you know, there's a lot of really good things out there. What do I use on the internet apart from using YouTube? I use obviously Google a lot, and other parts of Google to YouTube. I use the maps quite a bit, and now I use all the, because I've got an Android phone, I use a lot of the other services as well, which are all nicely integrating and giving me a lot of power just in the telephone, of knowledge and ability to access resources, which is great. And obviously I use LinkedIn a good deal in business. Please link into me in LinkedIn. Look up David James in Poland, you should find me quite easily. Please, if you want to link with me on Facebook, then by all means go ahead. That's pretty much a good way of finding me on Facebook as well. I'll probably put some links into the description area. Into the descriptions area, how to get hold of me on these places. If you want to play games with me, it's itsyourturn.com. That's Uncle Davey on there, Uncle Space Davey. On itsyourturn.com, and I play most kinds of board games, I suppose, on that. That's not such a popular site. I mean, it's very popular. It's got a few million people on it, but it's not like in the world's top 30 like the other ones that I've mentioned. I use Plaxo a bit, although it doesn't do an awful lot of stuff that can't be done in other ways. That's what it's telling me to do, I think.
Οδηγήστε 5 χιλιόμετρα, 600 μέτρα.
Okay. It's got an accent a little bit like Tom Hanks in Terminal. I'm from Krakosia. So, anyway, yeah, that's the reason I'm doing Greek, is I'm going to Cyprus in a couple of months. I know that I've already been there once and I've got videos from Cyprus, but Cyprus is the sort of place where accountants like to go to. So there you go. So just for a week or so. Well, it won't even be a full week. More's the pity. Last time I went to Cyprus, my then boss liked it so much that he funded us all to stay on a few more days. So there we have it. Jolly fine place it is, Cyprus. I like it. And WordPress is good, you know, it's one of the other places where I go a lot. Spend every day I visit that. And what are the other places where I go? Well, those are the main ones, I think. Now I discovered a really good website called readthekanji.com. So if you're learning Japanese, then I definitely recommend that if you don't know it, because it's really good. Don't entirely understand how it started looking that way, but because it's got a kind of strange thing on the I expected there's different roads to the ones that are programmed in here. That's usually the explanation, because new roads appear, and that's quite old now, the maps in there. I tried to update them, but I can't actually update them. You have to buy an SD card or something for it, and I'm not 100% sure which one and how, etc. I'll probably take this with me and go to one of those specialist shops, but it's not bad. And anyway, I've got up-to-date maps anyway in the Android phone, so I don't actually need to use that one interminably anyway. So if I'm not sure, then I can always whip the Android phone out and get an immediate up-to-the-minute map, including satellite images from last year. So you can't say better than that. You probably can say better than that unless you've got a speech impediment, but you know what I mean. This is where the road is nice and thick and has obviously been redone, and as you can see, it's nice and black. So obviously the cars going down here at a fair old tempo have kept the road surface a little bit above zero, but at the sides it's cold enough to be to grab those flakes and hold them. And I don't think it would take much before the whole thing starts to white over, like the road was earlier on. Still, as you can see, the whole time snow is falling. And I probably said enough, haven't I? Do you want to see anything more than this? It's starting to get a bit darker. I've had a good half hour of daylight. Alright then, Aristera means left, doesn't it? So, looks like I've got to go left in Octacosia, must be 800. I don't think he's talking to me about octopuses.
Ετοιμαστείτε να στρίψετε αριστερά σε 300 μέτρα.
300 now.
Στρίψτε στην επόμενη αριστερά.
Epomen. I'm not sure what epomen means, but maybe it means turn. I don't know, I have to find out.
Ετοιμαστείτε να στρίψετε δεξιά σε 400 μέτρα.
So Dexia is the right, isn't it? And that first one couldn't have been the one because there wasn't enough coziers in it.
Στρίψτε στην επόμενη δεξιά.
Right.
Ετοιμαστείτε να μείνετε αριστερά σε 320 μέτρα.
So I've got to keep left in 200 meters or 300 meters, 200 already now.
Σε 100 μέτρα μείνετε αριστερά.
Oh, Hekato. I'm doing a Michel Thomas modern Greek course. It's not actual Michel himself, as he didn't live long enough to do the Greek course. I'm sure he would have done it if he'd have had more time, as he did quite a number of courses himself, but that's not a problem because his method has now been adopted by other people who, thanks to one in particular of his disciples, Harold Goodman and others. Harold Goodman's probably, well, I'd say probably, but there's a chance he might even be watching this film because he has watched some of my films before. So hello there, if you are. I'm only going to say nice things about you, and I hope you do the Hebrew course. He did the Chinese course for Michel Thomas. It's extremely good, and there's also a Japanese course done. There's a Greek course, there's a Russian course, there's a Polish course. So there's quite a few. So now there are more courses done using his method after his death than there were done during his lifetime. So I have to stop. Sorry about that, and I'll see you soon.